Christopher, I want to talk to you a little bit about Seattle. The Seattle City Council overrode the mayor's veto to defund the police. So the mayor's crazy. The mayor has even said, no, we're not gonna cut that deeply. And the Seattle City Council overrode the veto. What does this mean for police and for Seattle?
A couple things. I think it's actually a bit of a misconception nationally about the mayor of Seattle, Jenny Durkan. She is actually a quite moderate Democrat. She is obviously, on the left, but she's on the sensible left. She's a former U.S. attorney. She understands how the system works. She's really the only person that's defending the police department. But she's really being kind of ripped apart by the city council, which is kind of socialist and democratic socialist in nature. And they're moving forward with these plans. We're going to have 100 fewer officers on the street. Officers within SPD tell me that the officers who are still remaining are bailing left and right because they see the writing on the wall. The activists are not going to stop at cutting 100 officers. They're really going to try in the next budget season, which is coming up shortly, to defund the police by 50%. You have a majority of city council members that have pledged for a full 50% cut. So the youngest officers, the best officers, the officers that still have some career left in them are seeking lateral transfers to other departments because they know that being a police officer in the city of Seattle is now a kind of risk to your career. It's a risk to your life, safety. And frankly, what's going to happen is they're saying you're going to have a police force that is only responding to the most serious calls. And your response times might double, triple, quadruple. How do you? Where you may have a violent crime, and it could take half an hour for police to arrive.
How do they logically think that this is going to keep people safe, and keep the street safe, the police safe? How are they expecting this to work? Are they really that stupid, or do they not care?
I think they're really possessed by this story that the police is the city council, some of the legislation that they were considering explicitly says the Seattle Police Department is a white supremacist institution. They go around kind of hunting people of color. I mean, the most kind of horrific narratives have possessed a kind of activist class within the city, and they are moving forward on really no logical basis. They're moving forward on a kind of millenarian basis, where they're saying if we destroy the institutions of the police, which is kind of the last vestige of conservatism within the city institutions. It's the only thing that's standing between us and utopia. Their idea is through this great destruction of the police department, some kind of natural beauty and natural utopia will emerge. It's deeply naive, and unfortunately, it's going to cause the most chaos and destruction in Seattle's poorest neighborhoods.
Please, Stu and I read this like 3 times, and we're like, okay, maybe this is good. Maybe this is good. Seattle has just hired an ex-pimp to help them figure out how to police the streets. Now, how long has he not been a pimp? And he's a community organizer, I take it, and I think I might rather have the pimp. Can you tell me that story?
Yeah, I've actually, his name's Andre Taylor. I've actually met with Andre Taylor. I've interviewed him. He is a very charismatic person, and he is kind of, the mayor and some other members of the council are looking for any allies they have that can kind of play the role of activist, community leader. He's, from the kind of heart of the African-American community in Seattle. And they're essentially desperate to buy off elements of the community, and they're cutting checks furiously. And the mayor has said what they want to do, and the council backs her up, is spend up to $100 million supporting community organizations for communities of color, quote unquote. So they're kind of playing this game where they feel like they can essentially buy support, and if they inject enough cash into the activist networks, that they'll stop with the kind of agitation and disruption. But I think it's a strategic blunder, because all that will do is it will kind of create a stronger and more permanent kind of activist class that has full-time employees, full-time agitators, and, when someone tries to extort money from you and you cut them a check, they're just going to try to extort more.
Well, you also create the new Al Sharpton that is just a business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly right. And, when I met this gentleman, Andre Taylor, for an interview, he rolled up in a brand new Porsche with yellow rims. He had a security guard wearing a suit that was kind of, being his kind of advanced man. And it felt very much like out of a Tom Wolfe novel. It felt very much like this is almost a kind of cartoon character who is now being, funded with a six-figure paycheck by the city, but really has kind of no training, no kind of official capacity, and it's not really clear that he has the ability to do anything positive for the city moving forward.
Because, Christopher, there are cases like this, and some of the most effective people that would talk out about a bad thing happening in the community are people who lived it and are reformed. Those can be inspiring voices at times.
Right.
Do you see this particular ex-pimp as one of those people?
And that's a great question. And in fairness, in some ways, yes. I mean, one thing that Andre Taylor has done to his credit is that he's actually spoke out against the Chaz Chop.
Right.
And he actually went to the Chaz Chop and he said, look, if you care about the black community, doing this experiment in kind of white anarchism is not going to help us. So you guys should get out of here before someone gets killed. And he was actually thrown out of the Chaz Chop because he was essentially giving that speech. So it's a kind of mystery, honestly. Even I spent an hour with him. It really is a mystery. I think he has some actually good ideas. He has some ability to kind of rein in the worst of the kind of activists. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like your left hand fighting your right hand. I don't know if anyone wins.
As always, thank you very much for watching this stuff so closely and being brave enough to report on it. Christopher Rufo, contributing editor of the City Journal. We'll talk again, Chris. Thanks.